The session is being moderated by Mr. Nitin Jain, AVP, Resurgent India Limited. Over to Mr. Nitin Jain. Sir.
Hello. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I will just request everybody to settle down and have their, cup of tea on the table, so we can start the session. So, as you all aware that we already, running behind schedule. So, if you can settle down, so we can start the session and, benefit from the experience of our esteemed panelists. Can we close the door at the back? So good afternoon, everybody. So the next session is the discussion on investor education and protection, right? So as we all have been discussing on this topic since morning, and our chief guest address was really, electrifying, and now we have to match his energy and the kind of, you know, roadmap that he has given us to kind of, deliberate on the topic and highlight some of the key aspects so the ultimate investor can benefit ultimately. For this, we have a esteemed, panel to discuss it. So we have Mr. Firoz Aziz, who is the Deputy CEO of Anand Rathi Wealth Limited. We have Mr. Sanjay Gahar, Vice President of Multi-Commodity Exchange of India. We have Mr. Sumit Gambhir, Company Secretary, DCM Shriram. And we also have Mr. Rohit Chawla, acting CEO of Taurus Asset Management. Right. So welcoming you all. So, to kickstart the topic, we already have some discussion and we know about the key points. But there are certain, specific things that we want to handle in terms of don'ts and, do's and don'ts of the investor so that his interest is protected ultimately. Right? So to highlight some of points on the ground and what is the kind of step-by-step approach investor can take. So ultimately, he doesn't really feel cheated, and ultimately, the goal of his investment can be achieved in the long run, right? So I will start with Firoz and ask him to kind of put some highlight as per his experience with interaction with retail as well as institutional investors, and guide us with his point of view in terms of what are the steps the investor can take so that ultimately his kind of money is protected and he can generate the desired return in the long run. So over to Firoz. Yeah.
So I'll give you my 2 bits when it comes to do's and don'ts. Do's and don'ts of investor. If you look at the don't ever start from the top as an investor. If there's a new investor, he has to be investing for long periods of time, वरना वो अपनी गोल अचीव ही नहीं कर पाते. So जैसे हम क्लास 10वीं कक्षा में जाने से पहले 9th को कंप्लीट करते हैं, 9th की कक्षा जाने से पहले 8 की कंप्लीट करते हैं, सीधे अगर बच्चे को 5वीं कक्षा से 10वीं कक्षा भेज दोगे तो उसका फेल होना निश्चित है. So when you're starting the investment journey, most of us as children in India start investing journey because gold, real estate के जो हमारा प्रेम है वो भी तो investment है. I think समीर सर ने किसी ने कहा था कि भाई everybody is an investor. It's about investing in equity markets, which is the tricky one. So point is, if you start with direct equity as a new investor, there is a good 60-70% chance that you will not be investing in equity for good 30 years. If you start with a mutual fund, you can always graduate and go into a PhD also and go to derivatives at a point in time. But you have to go in the chronological order. That's the first bit. So I feel very, very scared when the first time investor starts with direct equity, and that too with an IPO. Because the volatility, the risk is significantly more numerically if you start with something which you're not having the stomach for. That's point one. Point two is that don't worry about products, don't worry about assets. Be married to your objective. मैं इसको कर क्यों रहा हूं, ये प्रश्न पूछना बड़ा जरूरी है. इन्वेस्टर को कोई प्रोडक्ट दिखाया जाता है वो खरीद लेते हैं. उनको बोलते हैं रियल एस्टेट अच्छा है तो जाते हैं अपार्टमेंट खरीदाते हैं. भाई वो मेरी क्या जरूरत को पूरा करेगा, वो सबसे बड़ा प्रश्न है. सो ऑब्जेक्टिव ड्रिवन मनी मैनेजमेंट इज मोर क्रिटिकल. ऑब्जेक्टिव भी 3-4 किस्म के होते हैं. एक तो रिटर्न कमानी है कम से कम रिस्क में, दैट्स द फर्स्ट ऑब्जेक्टिव. सेकेंड ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है कि अगर जिस दिन मैं दुनिया छोड़ूं तो ये जो पैसा नेक्स्ट कर्ता के पास जाएगा. ऑल ऑफ अस हैव अ फाइनाइट लाइफ, लाइक सर आल्सो वाज सेइंग. द नंबर ऑफ विल्स मेड इन इंडिया, यू बी सरप्राइज्ड. आई हैव मेट अ पर्सन विद 300 crores doesn't have a registered will. 99% of HNIs don't have a registered will. HNIs रिटेल की तो छोड़ें. अब हमने 3,500 लोगों की विलें बनाई. 8,500 क्लाइंट ही हैं क्योंकि HNI है. तो everybody has to think about my objective of the monies being transmitted has to be taken care of. So objective driven is the second point I'm making. Third, very important point is measure every asset in the same scale. आज तक ऐसा कोई आपको शायद नहीं मिला हो, मुझे तो नहीं मिला, जो आपको बोलेगा कि इस रियल एस्टेट की रिटर्न 13% कंपाउंडेड आई. रियल एस्टेट में हम अलग तराजू यूज करते हैं. बोलता है कि मेरा पैसा 4 गुना हो गया, 3 गुना हो गया, 2 गुना हो गया. यू विल नेवर मीट अ पर्सन हु सेज आई मेड 7% कंपाउंडेड रिटर्न इन रियल एस्टेट. बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स दे विल मेजर इट इन परसेंटेज. एक भाई साहब से मिला, उन्होंने कहा 1996 में मैंने लोखंड वाला मुंबई में एक अपार्टमेंट खरीदा 64 लाख का. आज हो गया वो 2.5 करोड़ का. 3 गुना हो गया, 4 गुना हो गया. काश मैं 4 अपार्टमेंट खरीद लेता. तो मैंने कहा रुकिए, कंपाउंडेड रिटर्न तो कैलकुलेट कीजिए. तो 7.2% की कंपाउंडेड रिटर्न आई. फिर मैंने एक वेबसाइट खोली और बोला गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को पैसा देते उस समय तो 16% कंपाउंडेड मिलता. 10 करोड़ रुपया होता है एक अपार्टमेंट में, जो आज आप इतने खुश हो रहे हैं कि ये 2.5 करोड़ का हो गया है. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को 30 साल के लिए पैसे देते तो 10 गुना होता, 10 करोड़ होता है. सो पॉइंट इज यूज द सेम तराजू. अगर मुझे आप मेरा वजन और नितिन सर का वजन की तुलना करनी है, मैं अपना वजन पाउंड में बताऊं और सर केजी में बताएं, और मैं बोलूं ये बोलें कि मैं इनसे मोटा हूं, तो मैं बोलूंगा मेरा स्केल पाउंड यूज किया, आपने केजी यूज किया. All 4 assets, there are only 4 sustained assets in my opinion. 2 real estate and equity can beat inflation. Gold and debt are protection assets. Use the same measuring scale for all the 4 asset classes. And when I calculated, हमारे क्लाइंटों के पास 32,000 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी, तो हमने 10,000 करोड़ की कंपाउंडेड रिटर्न कैलकुलेट की. क्लाइंटों ने तो नहीं की थी. हमने कहा हमारा फर्ज है, हम CFO लोग हैं, वी आर CFO टू अ क्लाइंट. तो कैलकुलेट की तो कितनी आई? 8.3% की कंपाउंडेड रिटर्न आई और होल्डिंग पीरियड था 12 साल का. वही क्लाइंट, एक क्लाइंट ने बोला हमें, मुझे बोला, दिस इज द लास्ट पॉइंट आई विल मेक बिकॉज़ आई हैव अ फ्लाइट टू गेट, सो आई एम बोरिंग यू इन द वन क्वेश्चन इटसेल्फ. एक क्लाइंट साहब मिले, बोले कि अब मैं आपका क्लाइंट बन जाऊंगा, प्रॉस्पेक्ट थी, बट 3 तारीख को मुझे मेरी रिटर्न और स्टेटमेंट आ जाना चाहिए, ये एक कंडीशन है. तो मैंने कहा बहुत बढ़िया सर, ऐसा क्या आप 3 तारीख को देख लेंगे जो 4 में आप इतने परेशान हो रहे हैं? बट आई वांटेड टू अंडरस्टैंड. तो मैंने कहा सर ये घर आपका पड़ा हुआ है 22 साल से आपके पास, उसकी कंपाउंडेड रिटर्न कब चेक की थी? बोला कभी चेक नहीं की. फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट आपको 3 तारीख के पहले स्टेटमेंट चाहिए और वो आपकी कंडीशन है मेरा क्लाइंट बनने की, और प्रॉपर्टी की रिटर्न आपने 22 साल से कैलकुलेट नहीं की. क्यों ये नाइंसाफी? क्यों ये नाइंसाफी है इक्विटी जैसे एसेट क्लास के लिए? क्या कारण हो सकता है? यार 3 बच्चे हैं, एक बच्चे को बोलते हैं कि तू 2 साल में तू 10वीं कक्षा पहुंच जा, बाकी 2 गोल्ड और रियल एस्टेट कोई बेचना ही नहीं चाहता 20-20 साल तक. उन बच्चों को पूरे 15 साल मिलेंगे तुम 10वीं कक्षा में पहुंचने के लिए. इक्विटी को कल मिलना है, कल पास होकर उसको ट्रिपल प्रमोशन लेके फिर उसको बच्चे को ब्लेम करते हो, इक्विटी को ब्लेम करते हो. तो ये समझाना बहुत जरूरी है. एंड आई स्टिल हैव वन लास्ट पॉइंट. आई डोंट थिंक हम सब जो इक्विटी के प्रोपेगेंट्स हो सकते हैं बिकॉज इट्स अ गुड एसेट क्लास, हम इतनी लोगों की उम्मीदें बढ़ा देते हैं ना चेक लेने से पहले, कि उनको लगता है कि मैं मैजिक वाला चेक काट रहा हूं. हम जिससे भी चेक लेते हैं उनको पहले ये बोलते हैं सर हर साल लास्ट 22 साल की डेटा देख लीजिए, हर साल मार्केट निफ्टी 14% ऊपर के स्तरों से नीचे के स्तरों तक गिरी है, 14% गिरी है. अगर ये आप एक्सपेक्टेशन नहीं है आपकी कि कि मेरे पैसे डालते ही सिर्फ एक दिशा जाएगी, तो आप प्लीज ये चेक अपने पास रखें और फाड़ दें इस चेक को। इक्विटी आपको इसीलिए एफडी से 3 गुना ज्यादा रिटर्न देती है क्योंकि वो हर साल आपकी नींद चेक करती है। एवरी ईयर निफ्टी हैज फॉलन 14.3%। कोविड का साल छोड़ दीजिए, 2008 का साल छोड़ दीजिए, उनको छोड़ने के बावजूद नॉर्मल साल में इक्विटी मार्केट 15% गिरती है। अब जो भी इक्विटी मार्केट में इंसान को लाना चाहता है वो इतनी अच्छी रोजी पिक्चर दिखा देता है ना, सेंसेक्स 3 लाख, निफ्टी 2 लाख, मतलब ऐसी बड़ी बड़ी बातें कर देते हैं। वो आते ही उसको लगता है कि यार मैं तो ये 2 लाख सोच के आया था, सेंसेक्स आ गया 30,000। उसको we have to create right expectations before we bring a new investor, otherwise he'll never be satisfied. So these are the 3-4 points as an intermediary.
Thank you, Firoz. Thank you. I think you have put in the right point to understand the product and to set the expectation right. An investor has to kind of, understand the product and follow a step-by-step approach. Do not really directly jump into the equity if you don't understand it. So there are other experts where, the investor can make a beginning and ultimately understand the market in a more comprehensive way and ultimately ensure their return in the long run, right? So I will, kind of extend the same time to Mr. Sumit as well in terms of, his experience to understand what are the common mistakes the investor makes in terms of its first investment or, be the part of the ecosystem, right? Because investor, protection is also, quite dependent on the investor awareness. So I would like to hear from his experience on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to pick on points, Firoz has to catch a flight, so he has to kind of, leave early. So we thank him for his, presence here and for his valuable inputs. Thank you, Firoz. Thank you.
Sorry for the disruption. Recording देखूंगा। Thank you. Sorry. We want to shift here. It looks very ugly.
Yeah, so I think very relevant point, because this is what I've been saying. Financial literacy and investor awareness is very, very important. What we normally do is, I can give you my example. जब इनिशियल पीरियड में हमने कमाना शुरू किया, सोचा कि इन्वेस्ट करें, so there was no guide, where to invest, when to invest, and we didn't take, frankly, I didn't take any professional advice also at that point of time, and then I realized it was a mistake. शुरू में क्या होता है कि किसी ने बोला यार यहाँ पर इस प्रॉपर्टी में पैसा लगा दो, ये नई जगह आ रही है, ये बहुत अच्छा है. आई एम नॉट सेइंग प्रॉपर्टी विल नॉट गिव यू रिटर्न. प्रॉपर्टी हैज गिवन रिटर्न टू मैनी पीपल, गुड रिटर्न्स ऑलवेज. बट अगेन क्या सोच के लगाया, एक जगह प्रॉपर्टी में पैसा लगाया, प्रॉपर्टी डूब गई, पैसा चला गया, बिल्डर भाग गया, कुछ हुआ. तो इस तरीके से जब 2-3 बार नुकसान हुआ, देन सडनली समवन टोल्ड मी कि यू हैव टू स्टार्ट, you have to distribute your portfolio for investment if you are actually making investment. ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है? ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है आज की डेट में कि यार कम से कम रिटायरमेंट के बाद इतना पैसा हो कि आदमी जो है ग्रेसफुली या डिग्निटी से जी सके. वो अलग बात है कि वक्त का पता नहीं होता. बट देन आई स्टिल रिमेंबर व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड पुटिंग मनी इन इक्विटी, तो मेरा एक ही फंडा था कि मैंने 2-3 लोगों से पूछा, मैंने कहीं ज़्यादा ट्रेडिंग वेडिंग नहीं शुरू की, बट व्हाट आई डिड वाज एंड व्हाट आई सजेस्ट एवरीवन इज दैट पिक फ्यू blue chip good stocks and make them, put them for a long-term investment. Don't think of the short-term investment. And you will not believe, in 8 to 10 years, what I found was, जैसे मेरा portfolio बढ़ता गया, I realized that I have got a pretty good returns on those stocks. And उसमें भी एक किसी ने मुझे बताया था कि आप उसके अंदर मतलब 7 या 8 सेक्टर पकड़िए और not more than 15-20 stocks में पैसा लगाइए और उसके अंदर अपना रेगुलर चलते रहिए, and then see the returns in that. एंड उसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करके रखिए कि कितना परसेंट करना है. मतलब एक स्टॉक के अंदर रफली 7-8% से ज़्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स वर रियली प्लेड वेरी गुड एडवाइस टू मी. एंड मैंने कुछ जैसे 15 स्टॉक्स रखे, उन 15 स्टॉक्स का जब मैं पोर्टफोलियो अपना देखता हूँ ना, तो मतलब मार्केट अप गई या डाउन गई, मैंने देखा है आई हैव ऑलवेज गेन्ड इन दैट ओवरऑल रिटर्न जो है मेरा. एंड आई रियली फील प्राउड कि यार ये ठीक चल रहा है. प्लस आई स्टार्टेड इन्वेस्टिंग इन म्यूचुअल फंड दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम. एंड फॉर अ सैलरी पर्सन SIP इज़ वेरी वेरी गुड ऑप्शंस हमेशा. म्यूचुअल फंड के अंदर भी ये देखा कि इवन द मार्केट वाज डाउन और अप, वी रियली गेन्ड एक्चुअली. सो आई थिंक इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस टू अंडरस्टैंड कि शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए हमें गेन नहीं करना, हमें गेन करना है. अनलेस यू आर अ ट्रेडर और यू वांट टू यू आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन द ट्रेडिंग ओनली, दैट्स अ डिफरेंट इशू. But people like me who are looking for a second income or a retirement income, or people like other who are looking for a side income or some investments etc, it's very important for us to understand that return तो जितनी मिलनी है उतनी ही, मतलब यू कॉन्ट एक्सपेक्ट सडनली कि आज को आप 50% रिटर्न मिल जाएगी, किसी भी चीज़ में नहीं मिलती. बट येस, इट्स द बेस्ट वे ऑफ डूइंग इट. म्यूचुअल फंड्स, कुछ गुड स्टॉक्स जिसके अंदर आप रेगुलर रखें, एंड यू नो यू शुड ऑल्सो अंडरस्टैंड दैट मार्केट के अंदर क्या चल रहा है, कब क्या आ रहा है, थोड़ा सा अवेयरनेस ज़रूरी है. बट एक और चीज़ मत कीजिएगा कभी, विच आई एम सीइंग वेरी रेगुलरली नाउ इट इज. इवन सुंदरेशन साहब भी बता रहे थे, एवरी डे यू विल फाइंड अ लॉट ऑफ रील्स, लॉट ऑफ यू नो यूट्यूब चैनल्स एंड ऑल. अगर आपने 1 करोड़ करना है तो इन 10 स्टॉक में पैसा लगाइए, अगर आपने 5 करोड़ करना है तो इन 5 स्टॉक में लगाइए, चंद्रयान जा रहा है तो ये कंपनियां सपोर्ट करें. आई एम नॉट सेइंग नॉट सपोर्टिंग, बट द पॉइंट हियर इज दैट दीज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स विल डेफिनेटली यू नो आर नॉट रिलायबल इन्फॉर्मेशन. हो सकती है अच्छी निकल आए, आपको अपने हिसाब से चलना है. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड योर ऑब्जेक्टिव, कि आपका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, आपको कब कितनी इनकम चाहिए. इज दैट अ सेकंड इनकम, इज दैट अ रिटायरमेंट इनकम, इज दैट फॉर अ चिल्ड्रन एजुकेशन. आई थिंक because as a company secretary I have seen many investors suffering when they come to us and saying sir मेरे ये स्टॉक थे, इस कंपनी में मुझे कुछ हेल्प चाहिए. लोगों ने नॉमिनेशन नहीं किए हुए थे, लोगों ने डीमैट अकाउंट नहीं खुलाए थे. कुछ केसेस ऐसे हुए कि उन्होंने फिजिकल में बड़े आराम से सोचा कि हमने रखे हुए हैं, कोई बात नहीं यार, बेच नहीं पाएंगे, बट आई डोंट वांट टू डू द डीमैट एंड नॉमिनेशन. सडनली व्हेन ही केम फॉर डीमैट, पता लगा कि उसके स्टॉक 5 साल पहले बिक चुके थे. You know, someone has actually applied for a duplicate along with some copy करके signature, either family member or relative or someone, and then they applied for duplicate stock in that company and then got the duplicate issued and got the dematted done, sold and all, and he was still carrying that certificate. तो timely demat कराना कितना important था, ताकि आपके KYC बराबर important होते रहें. All these things were very very important. सेबी ने जितने भी ये effort किए हैं बहुत अच्छे किए हैं, because सब कुछ ब्लैक एंड वाइट में होगा. नॉमिनेशन है, KYC प्रॉपर है, द चांसेस ऑफ फ्रॉड एंड फ्रॉडुलेंट एक्टिविटीज आर वेरी वेरी लेस. सो आई वुड सजेस्ट दैट दीज आर सम ऑफ द टिप्स व्हिच आई हैव लर्नड फ्रॉम माय एक्सपीरियंस एक्चुअली.
Thank you very much. And I think, you know, it's when you're part of the, you know, regular investment market, I think, you know, your diversification, understanding of the market, and keep on engaging with the market is the key, right? So there are new learnings every day. The regulator is coming with new things and regulation. There are updates from your, you know, investing company, and you, as an investor, you also need to kind of be aware about a lot of new things, right? So if you are more engaged on the investment ecosystem, interact with different entities, that ultimately can really, you know, give you a fruitful investment ultimately. Yeah. So, you know, again, you know, taking that discussion forward, right, I would like to understand, you know, some of the basic fundamentals of the investment. We understand that, you know, we have to understand about the target companies, you know, financial performance, and there are certain, you know, initiatives that the investor can take so that he can be more competent. But ultimately, I would like to come to Mr. Rohit and understand that what are the fundamentals of investment ecosystem that you can advise to, you know, first-time investor, and to give them some advice so that, you know, they can be a consistent and long-term investment in the whole ecosystem and really can contribute for the overall development. Yeah, over to Mr. Rohit. Yeah.
फंडामेंटल इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए आपको यू शुड कीप इन माइंड दी लिक्विडिटी. जब आपको ज़रूरत हो तो लिक्विडिटी कहाँ मिलेगी, नंबर 1. गोल्ड, आपको एक्चुअली टेलर मेड अपना पोर्टफोलियो रखना चाहिए. ऐसा नहीं है कि खाली म्यूचुअल फंड और स्टॉक में ही, रियल एस्टेट में भी. लेकिन जनरली एक मिडिल क्लास जो होता है रियल एस्टेट लेता है तो रहने के लिए लेता है, और जो इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए रियल एस्टेट लेते हैं वो अल्ट्रा HNI या HNI होते हैं. एंड दे अंडरस्टैंड कि रियल एस्टेट में क्या मिलेगा, कब एग्जिट करना है, कब एंट्री करना है. तो जो मिडिल क्लास हैं या बिलो मिडिल क्लास हैं, जो कि हमारे टारगेट ऑडियंस हैं आज की डेट में, जो कि बियॉन्ड 30 सिटी में अगर हम जाएंगे, तो जिनको म्यूचुअल फंड में लाना है, आज हमारे पास 11 करोड़ फोलियो हैं, लेकिन यूनिक इन्वेस्टर आप देखेंगे तो 3 करोड़ 90 लाख हैं, और हमारे पास 90 करोड़ आधार कार्ड हैं, 75 करोड़ पैन कार्ड हैं. तो पोटेंशियल इन्वेस्टर का आप देखिए कितना सारा है. लेकिन जो न्यू टाइम इन्वेस्टर होता है उसको मैं ये सजेस्ट करूँगा कि जनरली रूरल एरिया में 2 ही जगह इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, या वो गोल्ड लेते हैं या वो लैंड लेते हैं. और दोनों जो है समय जब आता है तो लिक्विड नहीं होता है. रियल एस्टेट बेचने में आपको अपॉर्चुनिटी कब मिलेगी, प्राइस कब मिलेगा, ये सर्टन नहीं रहता है. गोल्ड भी जब आप लिक्विडेट करने जाएंगे तो 10% कटेगा, मेकिंग कट जाएगी। तो इन ट्रू सेंस अगर आप देखेंगे तो पिछले 30 साल में निफ्टी ने 17.5% का रिटर्न दिया है। और ये अगर आप रिटर्न ध्यान में रखते हैं तो मेरे ख्याल से इक्विटी में अपना पोर्टफोलियो का कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट होना चाहिए। एक सिंपल फार्मूला होता है 100 माइनस योर एज, दैट शुड बी इन इक्विटी मार्केट। अगर मेरी उम्र आज 40 है तो 100 माइनस 40 कर दूँ तो मेरा 60% इन्वेस्टमेंट इक्विटी में होना चाहिए। 40% इन्वेस्टमेंट को मैं गोल्ड, डेट या जहाँ पे कि कंजर्वेटिव रिटर्न मिलते हैं और जो कि आर्बिट्राज भी होता है इक्विटी के अगेंस्ट, हेज भी बोल सकते हैं आप। प्रॉब्लम क्या है, इन्वेस्टर अवेयरनेस की, प्रोटेक्शन की, एजुकेशन की, इनिशिएटिव की बातें हम कर रहे हैं, नो डाउट इट इज़ गुड, लेकिन इसको इम्प्लीमेंट करना, इसका रोड मैप क्या है, ये डिसाइड नहीं हुआ है। आज अगर मैं आपसे बात करूं कि कटक में, उड़ीसा में मैं रहता हूं और करंटली तो गुड़गांव में ही रहता हूं। कटक में अगर इन्वेस्टर एजुकेशन प्रोग्राम आपको करना हो तो 100 इन्वेस्टर को आप कैसे इनवाइट करोगे? सेबी ने ये मैंडेट किया है कि आप अपनी एएमसी को बोला है कि आप अपनी वेबसाइट में पहले से डाल दो एडवांस में कि मैं इस जगह पे एजुकेशन प्रोग्राम करूँगा, करेक्ट। लेकिन उस एएमसी की वेबसाइट में जाके कौन चेक करेगा कि ये दिन पे यहाँ इन्वेस्टर एजुकेशन प्रोग्राम होने वाला है? इन्वेस्टर एजुकेशन प्रोग्राम के लिए मेरा सजेशन जो है, एमपी को मैंने कई बार दिया है कि आप जो लोकल आदमी है उसको इंसेंटिवाइज करो कि वो 100 इन्वेस्टर लेके आए। जनरली रूरल एरिया में क्या होता है कि ट्रस्ट के ऊपर इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं। वो एक आदमी को जानते हैं, वो उनको बताता है कि आप ये सहारा हुआ या आपके वेस्ट बंगाल में जो कुछ भी हुआ वो अपने आप नहीं हुआ है। वहाँ के कोई लोकल आदमी ने इन्वेस्टर को इन्फ्लुएंस किया और वो उसकी बात पे ट्रस्ट करते थे और इन्फ्लुएंस हो गए। जब ये इंसिडेंट हुआ तो उनको पता चला कि ये गलत है। लेकिन सहारा को इतने सारे पैसे आज भी मिल रहे हैं। रोज के 100 रुपया, एक पासबुक होती है, 100 रुपया देते हैं। ये चीज़ छुपी हुई नहीं है, लेकिन इसको बंद करने के लिए हमारे रेगुलेटर क्या कर रहे हैं? आज भी चल रहा है। मैं अभी 3 दिन पहले ही उड़ीसा से आया हूँ। वहाँ मैं देखता हूँ कि रोज़ शाम को एक आदमी आता है, पासबुक लेके आता है, 100 रुपये ले जाता है, पासबुक में एंट्री करता है और लोग समझते हैं कि हमारा सेफ इन्वेस्टमेंट है। वो नहीं है। तो जो अवेयरनेस की हम बात कर रहे हैं, वो अवेयरनेस करने के लिए हम इस एसी हॉल में बैठ के बात करेंगे, एक्सेल में सीट बनाएंगे तो नहीं होगा। उसके प्रैक्टिकली कैसे इम्प्लीमेंट करना है, एक्चुअली कैसे एजुकेट करना है, उसके लिए रेगुलेटर, एमपी, बाकी जितनी बॉडीज़ है उनको बैठ के रोड मैप बनाना पड़ेगा, उस जगह तक पहुंचना पड़ेगा। ये तो बड़ी बात। 2013 से आईएपी का बात चल रहा है। अभी आप मुझे बताइए कि 2013 में 1,60,00,000 यूनिक इन्वेस्टर हैं, आज 3,90,00,000 यूनिक इन्वेस्टर हो गए। तो कोई बहुत बड़ा प्रोग्रेस नहीं किया हमने म्यूचुअल फंड में यूनिक इन्वेस्टर का। और 2013 से 2023 तक 10 साल हो गए और ये 10 साल में इन्वेस्टर अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम का इतना प्रोग्रेस नहीं हुआ है कि हाँ, टॉप 30 सिटी में इन्फॉर्म्ड इन्वेस्टर, उनको इन्फॉर्म करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। वो गूगल कर लेते हैं, वो मनी कंट्रोल में चले जाते हैं, वो वैल्यू रिसर्च में चले जाते हैं, वो पोर्टफोलियो का कंपोजिशन देख लेते हैं और वो अपना डिसीजन ले लेते हैं। लेकिन बियॉन्ड 30 सिटीज़ में इसकी ज़रूरत है। और जहाँ तक इन्वेस्टमेंट करना हो, आपको ये ध्यान में रखना होगा कि कई बार अर्जेंट रिक्वायरमेंट आ जाती है, तो लिक्विडिटी अवेलेबल जो है वो स्टॉक मार्केट की है या म्यूचुअल फंड में है, जो T+2 में आपको पैसे मिल जाते हैं। तो थोड़ा सा आप इस चीज़ को दिमाग में रखिएगा कि लिक्विडिटी कहाँ से आपको जल्दी मिलेगी। रियल एस्टेट और गोल्ड में ये प्रोबेबिलिटी बहुत कम है कि कल ही आपकी दुकान बिक जाए, कल ही आपकी फ्लैट बिक जाए, फिर वो डेस्परेटली आपको बेचना पड़ेगा, उसमें हो सकता है आपका नुकसान भी हो। मैंने भी एक फ्लैट बॉम्बे में लिया था 19 लाख में 2003 में, आज 1.25 करोड़ की वैल्यू है। लेकिन मैं करूँगा क्या, मुझे तो उसमें रहना है, बेचूंगा तो नहीं, मैं बेचूंगा तो उससे ज़्यादा महंगा मुझे खरीदना पड़ेगा। तो मैं आपको एक सेविंग रेट के बारे में बताता हूँ। 1954 में हमारा सेविंग रेट था 7.9%, आज इंडिया का सेविंग रेट है 30%। तो कितना पोटेंशियल है। तो ये अवेयरनेस और एजुकेशन की जो बात चल रही है, इसको एक वॉर फुटिंग पे लेके अगर हम जाएंगे विद द हेल्प ऑफ रेगुलेटर एंड एमपी को इसमें बहुत बड़ा काम करना पड़ेगा। जहाँ तक नॉमिनेशन का सवाल है, नॉमिनेशन तो होना ही चाहिए, लेकिन कई लोग की कंस्ट्रेंट होती है कि भाई 3 बेटे हैं तो मैं नॉमिनेशन किसके नाम पे करूं, एक के नाम पे कर दूं तो 2 नाराज़ हो जाएंगे। कई लोगों के ऐसा भी होता है कि अपनी इन्वेस्टमेंट बताना नहीं चाहते बच्चों को, या अपनी इन्वेस्टमेंट डिस्क्लोज नहीं करना चाहते, तो वो हेजिटेट करते हैं नॉमिनेशन के लिए। चौथी बात यह है कि हर रजिस्ट्रार से नॉमिनेशन के लिए आपको मेल आता है, आपको व्हाट्सएप आते हैं, रोज़ के 100 मेल आते हैं, 50 व्हाट्सएप आते हैं। तो एक्चुअली में आप मिस कर जाते हैं कि कौन सा मेरा मेल इतना क्रिटिकल है जिसको मैं ओपन करके नॉमिनेशन की डिटेल्स फिलअप करूं। तो ये सब प्रैक्टिकल प्रॉब्लम है। जैसे 2 वे ऑथेंटिकेशन है, मैं चेन्नई गया था तो एक डॉक्टर मुझे मिले थे, उन्होंने बोला कि आपने 2 वे ऑथेंटिकेशन किया है, मुझे OTP आएगा तब मेरा एजेंट जो है उसको इन्वाइट कर सके। और मैं अभी सर्जरी रूम में हूँ, मेरा मोबाइल बंद रहता है, तो मैं अपना OTP दूंगा कब? तो जो कुछ भी हम लाते हैं प्रैक्टिकली वो पॉसिबल होना चाहिए, ये भी हमको देखना चाहिए। हाँ, इक्विटी में इन्वेस्टमेंट करो, फर्स्ट टाइम इन्वेस्टर हो, कम थ्रू म्यूचुअल फंड एंड कीप ए होराइजन ऑफ मिनिमम 10 ईयर। इन्वेस्टर का बिहेवियर पैटर्न बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर है। ऑप्टिमिज्म हो जाते हैं, 1 का 2 वाला रखते हैं दिमाग। मेरे ख्याल से एक इन्वेस्टर को एक्सपेक्ट करना चाहिए कि इन्फ्लेशन प्लस GDP का रिटर्न मिल जाए। इट इज़ मोर देन एनफ एंड इट इज़ गुड एनफ। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Mr. Rohit, for your valuable inputs. Right. I will now come back to Mr. Sanjay, and I understand he particularly dealing in commodity exchange, right? So lot of people understand about the equity investment in securities, but largely I would believe that many people need better understanding in terms of commodity exchange, right? So I will, ask Mr. Sanjay to put more light on that and give them, valuable inputs. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Nitin ji, and thanks to SOCHAM for having MCX here. So, whether you should invest in gold, अगर आपको ना बोला भी जाएगा तब भी हम लोग नॉर्मली करते हैं। इसका एम्पिरिकल बैकग्राउंड क्या है? अभी 20 अगस्त को दैनिक भास्कर का एक फ्रंट पेज न्यूज़ आया कि पिछले 5 साल में गोल्ड ने आपका जो रिटर्न है वो ऑलमोस्ट डबल रिटर्न है। Like if you invested 100 rupees, you got 200 rupees at the end of 5 years. Equity index 73%. So in terms of returns, commodities are a different asset class in the sense, so if there are empirical studies which show that the returns or the price movement in the equity segment is negatively correlated with the commodities. So अगर gold ऊपर जा रहा है तो index नीचे आएगा, index ऊपर जा रहा है तो gold नीचे आएगा, because they address 2 different behavioral aspects of investors. One is anxiety, the other is you're looking for investment returns. So ideally you should have gold in your portfolio. There are various ways. He is right that there is a problem in liquidity, probably at the spot or cash market level, where you convert everything into jewelry and then you get deductions on making charges and all that. But there are other forms of investing in gold. For example, we have on MCX there are 4 variants of gold traded: 1 gram, 8 grams, then you have 100 grams and 1 kg. 4 variants, all delivery based. So if you want to have visibility of the future price, you can see that. So if you want to know what is the today's perception about the future price of gold after 6 months, it is available on MCX. If you buy, you can get delivery also. 2004 से लेके अभी तक करीब 135 टन का गोल्ड डिलीवर हुआ है MCX के प्लेटफॉर्म पे, 4,500 टन का सिल्वर डिलीवर हुआ है MCX के प्लेटफॉर्म पे. Who all are these people who are taking and giving deliveries? So गोल्ड का अगर आप मार्केट साइज देखो तो इंडिया डज नॉट प्रोड्यूस, इंडिया खाली इंपोर्ट करता है. So we are the second largest importer of gold, around 800 tons to 1,000 tons of gold we import every year. आज के भाव पे अगर आप उसको कन्वर्ट करो तो इट कम्स आउट टू अराउंड 5 लाख करोड़ एवरी ईयर वी इम्पोर्ट. 5 लाख करोड़ का एक एसेट क्लास विच इज सिटिंग ऑन द साइड लाइन्स एज फार एज यू नो वी नॉर्मली टॉक अबाउट ओनली इक्विटी मार्केट्स. 5 लाख करोड़ का एक एसेट है जो साइड में बैठा हुआ है, जहाँ पे अगर आप नहीं भी बोलो तो वी इन्वेस्ट. So you have jewelers, you have individual investors. So ये वाली जो debate है whether you should invest in gold or not, I think it is already over. Second is हमारा जो ultimate objective है, we want to beat inflation. And inflation कौन cause करता है? So commodities are typically the underlying reason why inflation exists. Commodities अगर आपके पोर्टफोलियो में नहीं है in one way or the other, then probably you are riding a wrong horse. So all commodities, like on MCX we have gold, silver, we have industrial metals, we have energy which is like crude oil and natural gas, we have agri commodities. The primary objective of MCX is price discovery and risk management. So it is a platform for these two services. So we have one very small contract, menthol. Menthol का अगर आप जो फार्मर प्रोड्यूस करता है उससे अगर आप पूछो कि क्या भाव पे menthol आप बेचोगे, he would look at the MCX price first. So that is the kind of empowerment this platform has been able to deliver. अगर आप ज्वेलरी खरीदने जा रहे हैं and if you tell him भैया आप जो रेट बता रहे हो MCX पे तो ये भाव चल रहा है, ऑलरेडी वो आपको वैसे तो कोरिलेट करके ही बताएगा. अगर नहीं बता रहा तो ही वुड एटलीस्ट ट्रीट यू एज एन इन्फॉर्म्ड बायर ऑफ गोल्ड. एंड देन यू हैव देयर आर गाइडलाइंस फ्रॉम advisory guidelines from RBI and SEBI saying that all listed companies should disclose whether they are hedging their price risk or not. So ये जो price risk होता है, रशिया यूक्रेन का वॉर हुआ, some items went sky rocketing prices, कुछ का price नीचे हो गया. So if you don't understand the commodity market, probably you are not understanding half of the financial market, because all those companies, listed companies who use commodities as raw materials to produce value added products, if they don't do price risk management, तो वो जो risk का element है वो अपने price में build करते हैं as a buffer thing, and then we get inefficient prices as a customer. So I think we should learn about commodity markets also, and towards that objective, so this is like one platform. Like we did 2,000 programs last year to reach out to physical players like corporates, to general investors, to students who are our future investors and traders. But one caveat, one precautionary thing, I'll just take one more minute. So as Sundareshan sir said in the first session, 90% of the traders in derivatives market lose money. So that report came in the month of January 2023. उसमें 3-4 point हैं. One is that 90% of the traders lose money. How much money they lose? In addition to that, they also pay transaction charges, because अगर आप stock exchange या commodity exchange पे trade कर रहे हैं तो आपको you have to pay a certain fees to the exchange, to the brokers. Therefore, we need to understand very clearly कि हम as an individual हमारा क्या उद्देश्य है. If your objective is to create long-term wealth, then you should not trade probably. So trader एक typical अलग class है. अगर आपके पास वैसा skill set नहीं है तो either you acquire that skill set, otherwise because this market is a zero sum game. कोई 100 रुपये गंवा रहा है तो दूसरा 100 रुपये उसको मिल रहा है. It is not that it is a plus kind of game. So you have to understand very well, and you have to kind of upskill yourself if you want to trade in these markets. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind word. I think you have, kind of highlighted a very critical aspect to understand the commodity market. And there is an exchange available to give you all the updated information where the investor can be, kind of take inputs and do a fruitful discussion with the, person who is facilitating certain investment, right? So, we try to understand the few fundamentals of the investment ecosystem. Now, to take the discussion forward, I would say, like, since morning we have been discussing about the investor education, right? Now, as a a thought or something that we see as a part of this ecosystem, we talk about investor education or the awareness when somebody is actually thinking of investment or becomes an investor in the ecosystem. Then only certain regulatory authorities and agency reach out and give him certain inputs about the market. But I would like to cover through my esteemed panelists that how they see that at what point this investor education should start. It should start when somebody becomes part of the market, or it should start maybe at a school level or education level, or there may be certain agencies who regularly engage with these potential investors and make a starting point with them in terms of telling them about the investment market and giving some inputs so that they, even if they're not investing, they feel that they have certain insight towards that market. So I would again come back to Mr. Sumit and know his inputs that where he see that this education, investor education should start. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you. No, as I said that I was very late in getting this education and awareness. I really feel that the appropriate age should be there. So basically, whenever you start earning, that is one thing. If in case you are you're working salary class or professional and all, the moment you start earning, I think you should have a awareness of the investment. Because saving has to be converted into investment. That's a fundamental point. Saving har koi janta hai karna, everyone does the saving, all kind of a savings. Our parents also tell us to save, and so how to become that, how to make the saving into a proper return giving investment is very, very important. So I think the moment you start earning, it's very important for you to understand that you are aware of the market, you are aware of the dynamics, you are aware of your skill set, you are aware of your targets, and also you are aware of your objective in terms of the investment and all. So that's very important according to me, that the moment you start earning and the moment you are into system that you should be, and it's very difficult because things are changing very fast today. Today we have an instrument, tomorrow as I told you that there are multiple portfolio, multiple way of doing investment and multiple instruments, stocks, bonds, gold and property is always there, real estate is always there. So there are multiple way of investing. So one has to really understand in terms of number one, their objective, number two, their age, their skill set, and their current wealth, their objective. Everything has to be taken care. This all becomes a kind of a financial literacy for you, so that you can have a mental peace in terms of your financial literacy. So it's the continuous education in this awareness is very important. We should see that what is happening in the market, what is the current situation, what are the dynamics of the market, कहाँ क्या अच्छा चल रहा है, किस country से क्या अच्छी information आ रही है. So and when you have to switch your investment, so all these things are very, very important. But as I told you that this is not a short-term game, frankly. If you are a trader, that's a different issue. Otherwise, if you are actually a sincere investor, it's not a short-term gain types game. You have to have patience for any kind of investment, and patience is always given return. That's my experience.
I think you made quite a valid point here. Just an extension of this question, I would like to understand that, you said that if somebody joins, start working, they should thinking about the investment. So, do you think as an employer, organization can really contribute towards this investor awareness? Because as my experience, I can say that, when you start a job, you get introduced to insurance, right? You get employment, employee insurance, and that's you understand about the insurance, and then you also take your own policy, right? So that gives you a starting point. So do you think the corporate can also contribute towards, investor education?
It's a very relevant idea. I think we were discussing earlier also that this is the duty of the organization and employer also to make their employee. So ultimately, every employer is looking that their employee should become more wealthy. In fact, we're trying to every organization trying to pay the salaries and all, but at the same time, they will be happy if their employees are getting more wealthier. So I think one is that there are many schemes which we in the past also we used to see the scheme, salary saving scheme हुआ करती थी. मुझे अभी भी याद है when we started our career कि आप ये इंश्योरेंस करा लीजिए, आपके सैलरी में से कटता रहेगा, so that you don't have to pay at yearly rate or half yearly amount. So monthly, you're paying some amount of that. So salary saving scheme used to be very popular at that point of time, whether for LIC or for the brokers and other things. But in terms of like national pension scheme, this is a very good scheme. Actually, employers should implement, and they get a tax benefit also. But yes, it's very important if the employer take this initiative to get this awareness session done in the organizations for their employees. It's definitely going to be very, very helpful. That's a very good idea. I think I'm going to suggest my management to implement that very regularly. Frankly, thanks.
Thank you. So I will come back, come to Mr. Rohit with a similar, question, and try to understand his point, that where he see that starting point of that investor education, right? Because as we highlighted, there are different touch points, but nobody understands that what could be a starting point at what age, and the early we can start it, the more it can benefit a long-term investor. So over to you, Mr. Yeah.
The steps has already been taken by the Association of Mutual Fund in India. What we do is we do IAP in schools, and this is focused towards the women basically. So that is happening. So at the age of college or at the time of study, we are educating them to save and create wealth for the future. And we are also telling them what could be your goals and for what you are going to save. So that process has started across India. Every AMC is doing IAP in schools, and there are various agencies who are conducting this, because the AMC may not have reached to that particular places. So there are independent agencies who are doing this. But in my view, it should happen before he becomes investor. After he has become investor, and if he tastes the blood, then making that thing change or his habit change will be difficult. So it is better in education we should include curriculum as an activity of wealth creation, how it helps you. Because in India, 60% of the population do not have emergency fund. And today, medical requirement, I think 50 to 60% population is on some medication. In case of emergency, they have to borrow, and their all saving gets wiped out. So in my view, it is happening one way. Second way, it should start at the college or at the 12th level, so that when they join the company, they start doing SIP and they create wealth for themselves.
Sure. Thank you very much for your input. So I'll again come back to Mr. Sanjay, and you can also light on your viewpoint in terms of starting investor education, and plus I would like to understand from you, like you deal with different asset class in terms of investment. So what will be your view in terms of creating a larger investment pool, right? One thing you definitely mentioned that the people should also invest towards commodity, but yes, if we have to look at creating a larger pool of investor who is more aware and they are able to invest in different class of asset. So your point of view on that, yeah, please.
Thank you. So एक phrase है जैसे बोलते हैं कि save, invest and harvest. So normally without anybody educating us about it, हमारा जो पिगी बैंक कल्चर है, बच्चे को जो गुल्लक में हम पैसे देते हैं, so saving का education तो वहीं से चालू हो जाता है. So whether he is earning or not earning, probably he understands the importance of savings at least. Now that savings have to be kind of directed towards investments which yield more than inflation kind of returns. There the importance of financial education comes into picture. So So there are two ways of going about it. One is, I think the new education policy is already talking about financial literacy at the school level, where you are broadly told about various ways in which you can invest, and if you want to build some kind of a corpus at the end of a certain number of years, you can do that. So school level पे तो already आ गया है. For example, MP sir ने mention करा. So even exchanges are doing, I think the equity exchanges and commodity exchanges, we are trying to reach out to schools also. And college level पे it becomes two directional. One is that you should understand the financial market because you want to invest or you want to trade. क्योंकि trading as a career normally people don't understand. हमारा एक job रहता है and then we trade in the markets, so to speak. If we don't invest, we trade. But trading as a career is very popular globally. जहाँ पे you by way of studying mathematics and concepts like volatility and returns, portfolio theory, ऐसा करके you try to trade the markets. So उस दिशा में भी बच्चे जा सकते हैं. There are many people who are doing it. I come across youngsters who have founded companies who are members of the exchange, trading on the exchange in their proprietary account. So college level पे already हो गया है. Second aspect of that thing is career in the financial markets. So most of the people who are now in the financial markets of my age group came to this market by accident. We were never told about, there are plenty of career opportunities in financial markets. If I talk about the commodity markets, so as I said, the broad objective is hedging or price discovery and risk management. And look at the number of corporates who are doing, who are handling commodities. You have all the oil companies, you have large metal players, copper खरीदते हैं, पंखे बनाते हैं. If you understand all these markets, gold का, as I said, 5 lakh crore का India का market size है every year. So how many people really understand how this market flows? So having such capsules in your, at school level or at college level probably will kind of induce us to understand this market better. And coming to the inclusion of different assets into the overall asset portfolio, as I said, empirically there are studies have shown that if you have multiple asset classes, assets in your portfolio, the risk-adjusted return improves, and people have won Nobel prizes, just by. ये हमारी logical normal thinking भी हो सकती है कि यार एक ही basket में सब चीजें मत रखो. So we have to have multiple baskets. So I think that is how we should go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mundra. So I think we have short of time. I will just ask a last question from a esteemed panelist. Yeah, do's and don'ts we definitely discuss. One thing I personally wanted to discuss among the panel is the nomination. Right, I can start with my one personal experience that I was applying to a bank for a certain investment, and the bank told me to put the nomination, and I agreed, okay, I'm ready to put the nomination. But when I was filling the form, he said that you have to attach the ID of the nominee, right? At which I wasn't carrying. So there I don't have the ID. So then he said, okay, it can be later, it can be done later as well. Then after that, it never happened, right? I did it sometime, but again, at that point, it was postponed, right? Now, I think that's really a critical aspect in today's investment scenario that, okay, we are dealing with a lot of uncertainties. So you should have a kind of proper KYC and nomination for your investments, right? So I would like to kind of understand from our panelists that how they perceive that and how certain investor awareness program can really include this point so that their investments are protected in the long run. So even if some mishappening is happening with the investor, the investment is secured and can benefit the next generation or whomsoever is the nominee, right? So I would like to understand from panelists that how they see this can be more inclusive as part of the overall investment ecosystem. So starting with Mr. Mee.
Yeah. Sure, I think this was not the trend earlier, so people are not giving any nomination in any of the account. And in the practical experience, in my experience also, and लोगों ने ये देखा है कि that there has been many unclaimed funds are lying. If you really see whether it's a provident fund, whether it's a FDs, whether it's a share market, mutual fund, everyone, and a lot of unclaimed funds are lying, and the chances of frauds are actually increasing in those. So it's always a good idea to have a nomination, and that's where SEBI has actually prescribed and mandated nomination, and I think in the banks also now they are taking for the nomination. But I think it's some places that's still optional, but some places that I think they are saying either you give nomination or you say I don't want to nominate anyone. Challenges जरूर आते हैं practical, as somebody was saying that मैं किसका नाम डालूँ nomination में, it becomes difficulty, but you don't have to tell anyone that whose name you are putting actually. Put at least one name so that tomorrow in case of any mishappening or in case of anything, you never know, the life is so unpredictable that you're not able to communicate tomorrow, So at least there is one name is there, who is there, where you can be, where your funds can be given, or it should be, your people can contact it. I've seen not only in investment but in the other things also. I still remember in one of our organization, one of our director, senior vice president, he died suddenly in an accidental death, and there was no nomination on the PF form also. I don't know whether it's still mandatory or not, but at that point of time, he didn't mention any nomination on the PF form also. And one side his family was there, his wife with the 2 kids were claiming that amount, and one side his parents, old age parents, they're claiming that amount. And we were really in the fix in that organization, what should we do? Because either we told them that इनकी कोई will है, कोई will भी नहीं है, आप क्या करेंगे, succession certificate, etc., etc. There were so many challenges. So that's where we realized nomination is actually a very important thing. आप कैसा करते हैं, किस तरीके से करते हैं, that's up to you. But at least अब वहाँ पर उसके 4-5 करोड़ रुपया पड़ा हुआ था, and the wife was saying that it's entirely my money because my husband died, I have to take care of my children. Parents were older, and we really realized that they were also dependent on the son because they are old age, 78, 70 plus and 80 plus people, and they wanted some money in that. And so what do we do? So we then we make them understand, came out with the settlement formula and all. Similarly, when I handle in company IEPF cases, every time the dividends, those who have not claimed dividend for 7 years, as the shares has to go to the IPF. At every 3 months, because for example, we are giving dividend every 3 months, so 3 महीने बाद वो due हो जाता है 7 साल वाला. At every time we see that a lot of shares are there, which there is no person to claim it, there is no nomination. And I don't know, I can't tell you the number, but there's a lot of money has already gone to investor protection fund. So that's where the challenges are, that one has to really understand, if you are a smart investor, at least you should be able to understand कि अचानक अगर कुछ होता है तो your money is protected, and money is actually going to the proper, adequate, useful people where it is required to be given. Either you want to make a will that you want to donate it to a trust or something, that's a different issue. So I think nomination plays a very important role in my opinion.
So nomination, yes, we understand that now it's becoming more and more critical. One aspect of the nomination and overall KYC is linking every investment with the common denominator, and that's a PAN card nowadays, right? So even if somebody has not disclosed that he has invested in certain stocks or have certain investment, of the agencies can track if we have track to the PAN card that where all the investments are and how much is the amount, and ultimately if they're any nominees, so they can claim as well. So KYC and nomination, do you think they can put together, really play a very significant role in terms of investor protection and awareness? So, Mr. Rohit, if you can comment on that.
Yeah, you are right. Nowadays, prior to 3 months, it was mandatory to give nomination. Then SEBI got many suggestions, and they put an option of no. And few people are opting for no, but most of the people are now going for nomination. Regarding the legacy cases, we are trying at industry level to get the nomination detail. I will not tell you the figure, but let me tell you, there are n number of investors folio where we send every quarter to seek details, and that comes written and delivered. We don't know whether investor exists or do not exist. So nomination is must, and it should be there. So at least there is somebody, after that person is there or not there, comes to know that there is an investment. Then how the legal has claims or all that, but it will not remain unclaimed. So nomination is must. I must advise everybody to go for nomination. And let me tell you, nomination means that person is not the owner of that shares. He is just a facilitator. Ultimately, all the legal share will come in place, and that person will have to go by the succession certificate or whatever the court ruling or as per the will. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Sanjay, your thoughts on that?
उतने ज़्यादा broad thoughts नहीं रहेंगे या so coming from the fundamental principles या ground principles, nomination तो होना ही चाहिए. थोड़ा उसमें so one is that you generate alerts if somebody is not nominated. There should be some kind of umbrella, जैसे PAN number इन्होंने बोला, PAN number से link जितने भी हैं, मतलब आपका बैंक, आपका insurance, आपका shares, these alerts should come from wherever you are not nominated. Second is this should be ideally updated every year if you want to change or whatever you want to do. थोड़ा simpler होना चाहिए. जैसे I think somewhere I was doing, उन्होंने बोला कि वाइफ को कितना देना है, बच्चों को कितना देना है, प्राइमरी नॉमिनेशन करो, उसके बाद सेकेंडरी करो. I don't know. I think so. One is to make it simple. One is to create alerts. One is to guide people to kind of update every year if there is no change. आप HDFC बैंक के अकाउंट में नेट बैंकिंग पे जाते हो तो वो पूछते हैं कि एड्रेस यही है ना आपका, you know, at a certain frequency. So similarly, this can be done. SEBI has taken many steps कि PAN को आधार से लिंक करना है and all that. So once that becomes mandatory, everyone would do. And default setting में करने को बोलिए, ना करने को मत बोलिए. These are few ideas, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, so we are running short of time, and I thank our panel for their inputs and time, right? Yeah. So sorry about that. I will just open the floor for a couple of questions. So if anybody have a question, please be very quick and press brief any question. So I think I can start with you.
Gentlemen, नॉमिनेशन के बारे में बहुत बात हुई है. नॉमिनेशन जो है वो स्टेटमेंट या पासबुक पे प्रिंट नहीं होना चाहिए नाम, उसमें सिर्फ ये लिखा हुआ होना चाहिए कि नॉमिनेशन रजिस्टर्ड. दूसरी बात, उससे वो दिक्कत भी दूर हो जाएगी कि 3 बच्चे हैं, किसको नॉमिनी बनाया और किसको नहीं बनाया, मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं होगी. दूसरी बात, जो नॉमिनेशन है उसको उसका आधार नंबर या पैन नंबर जो है वो उसमें मेंशन हो, जिससे कि उसको ट्रेस करने में दिक्कत ना हो. ये जो नॉमिनेशन के बारे में बात हो रही है, उससे ये चीज़ दूर हो जाएगी. और उसमें ये ऑप्शन देना ही नहीं चाहिए कि भाई नॉमिनेशन ना, आई डोंट वांट टू मेक एनी नॉमिनेशन. उसमें सीधा ये होना चाहिए कि भाई नॉमिनी आपको देना ही देना है.
Sir, if you have any specific question, can we be quick? We understand your point and we say that. If you have any specific question. Yeah, well.
Yes, sir. I have a question. I'm Dr. Jagdish Shivare, professor and ex-scientist ISRO. Sir, my question.
Sir, can you please?
Yeah. Sir, my question. How do the risk tolerance and invest behavior compare with the potential rewards? I repeat the question. How do the risk tolerance and invest behavior compare with the potential rewards? Or simply, how do the risks compare with the potential rewards? And another part, are we following the guidelines framed up by International Network for Financial Education?
See, देखिए risk वाली जहाँ तक बात है, I think you have to understand your risk capacity. Everyone has to calculate their risk taking power, and that's very important. That keeps on changing at your time. As you progress in your life, then you see that your risk taking capacity has increased. So accordingly, that's the reason we say that the new investor should not directly go to the equity market, and that particularly without any awareness. You start with mutual fund where the risk is little low, and then thereafter, when your risk taking capacity is increased, and you have a mitigation step to that risk. I know that up to that extent, if there is a loss, I am able to bear that. So I think at each and every step, gradually I think frequently you should analyze your risk-taking capacity and also the mitigation plan and also the mitigation step you have. If you evaluate that and keep on investing on the basis of that, I think, and then you can distribute your portfolio to other things also, and that's what practically is advisable. Okay? So that's what about the reward on the risk. You know, ये तो ज़रूरी है कि जितना ज़्यादा risk उतना ज़्यादा reward होता है, but at times, you know, if you are not able to take that risk and your capacity is not there, you don't have any mitigation step, then you will be in trouble. And what was your second question?
No, you were talking about the nomination is a very important thing. Now, nowadays, most of the children of the senior people are residing abroad, and for 5 years or 6 years, or they don't have an Aadhaar card. So, what is the outcome of what is the stake you want to advise to those people? Thank you.
I think, if somebody is residing abroad and they do not have any, kind of local ID, right?
No, PAN card is there, Aadhaar card is not there. How will solve the problem?
So the PAN card can be linked. So yeah, PAN card can be linked. Like I mentioned, PAN client is the common document for all of your investments, right? So, if the bank card is registered, so that can be tracked, who is the nominee.
And second question is that you were talking about the physical shares converted into the DMAT. Now, most of the people have converted into DMAT, but they are not trading the shares, or they are not on the everyday market. So they are just keeping the shares in the DMAT format, and there is a annual fee is there, that if you are not trading, then some fee is there. Is it correct?
हाँ, वो कुछ DMAT charges कुछ होते हैं DMAT account रखने के,
nominal रखने के वो ठीक है, annual fees is there, but if your account is dead or not operative, then there is another fee also there. So the annual, if you are not trading in the one financial year, they are being penalized.
Sir, there are charges charged by NSDL and CDSL.
That is there. Fixed charges are DMAT account का है, वो तो है. उसके ऊपर भी कुछ charges लगते हैं सर.
Non-operation charges.
I think it's also depend on the kind of DMAT that the person is carrying.
Is okay, but he says if you are not operating, then also they are putting some levy.
We are putting some charges on that.
Maintenance charges तो हैं, वो that is it.
Yeah, I think we can conclude the session. And sorry, we are running out right now. Can we discuss one-to-one with the speaker?
Just last question, 1 minute.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, this is Harry Kamra. Thank you for this investor protection.
Actually, we are not able to hear you. Can you be a bit louder?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, please.
Great. So, thank you for this investor protection, education and awareness. This is Harry Kamra. I agree that when you are saying that we need to have KYC norms and everything in place, and then the question is ready to pass, like how to get unclaimed shares. Like, I'm not sure, like my ancestors, if they had certain things, like is there an agency or anything where we can track? Because in the past there was no KYC, nothing like that.
I think we earlier discussed it, that you can approach the investor protection fund, right? And if you have a track of the investments, or you can directly mention details and put a claim. If you don't know anything, so then approach the investor protection fund, and they can, I think, guide you further on that.
Yeah. And I think you should not get into, people are, there are people who are actually helping you out to get this money. There are people who are saying that we are agency, and I don't suggest, I'm not saying that I'm against that, but I'm saying that you need to be aware yourself. Go to the website of IPF, all the guidelines are there, how do you have to claim it. Talk to the company whose shares are there, the company secretary or the department will definitely advise you. Don't get into the bad hands or anyone supporting, because you are yourself are aware, you are padhe likhe log. A website has given everything, and there is a complete process. And then go and talk to the people. Don't get into the middleman's hands ki yaar mera nikilwa do, ye kar do. I don't suggest these.
So what's the website? IVF.
So if you go ipf.gov.in, आपको website मिल जाएगी MCA की, and उसमें you will get all the details of there, कैसे निकालने क्या.
Thank you very much.
So with this, we'll concluding the session, and I thank our esteemed speakers to give their valuable inputs, and I'm sure that will definitely help to bring more investor education, awareness, and protection ultimately. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We thank all the speakers of this session. We thank all the speakers of this session for their exemplary contribution. And in fact, as a lay person, I was also really enjoying it. Feel very sorry that we had to stop the session in between. Now we'll be starting the next session within 5 minutes. Request all the delegates to please remain seated.